Right. So now we are going to discuss about new topic, the interesting topic. So it has lot of articles. So here the articles are most important. We have to bat all the articles because in every examination they will ask the articles, constitutional articles. That is why I request everybody, please copy the articles, write down the articles what I am going to give. So our new topic is Directive Principles. Directive Principles. Our new topic is Directive Principles. Directive Principles. Okay, so Directive Principles is the important chapter in our polity concept, fundamental rights, directive principles and fundamental duties. These three important topics, but especially fundamental rights and directive principles will have maximum articles. So we have to bat all the articles. So without having knowledge about articles, we should not prepare for the competitive examinations. That's why directive principles are most important concept, most important lesson in polity. Right? See now, so directive principles, it has some introduction. We have to explain about the introduction. So what is the main aim of directive principles? The main aim of directive principles, establishment of or promoting the welfare society, to promote welfare society. This is the main target, main aim of directive principles. So promote welfare society or establish welfare society. So it strives for the welfare of the society only. So these directive principles are called instrument of directive principles have this name, instrument of instructions. Instrument of instructions. So directive principles are instructions. These are not guaranteed by the constitution, by the courts. Just like instructions. Instrument of instructions. So directive principles have this caption, instrument of instruction. So tell me, what is the meaning of directive principles? Directive principles of state policy. What is the meaning? Who directs whom? Who directs whom? So Constitution directs the governments. Constitution directs the government. That is directive principles of state policy. Here Constitution directs governments. Constitution directs governments. That's why these are not compulsory principles. These are only advisable principles or advisory principles. So Constitution directs governments like instruction, like advice. Okay. So directive principles having the nature of Fabian socialistic concept. Fabian socialistic concept. You write this concept, Fabian socialistic concept. So what is Fabian socialist concept? Directive principles have this kind of nature, Fabian socialistic nature. Actually, Fabian socialism was there in England. England was very famous for Fabian socialism. So Fabian socialism means shadow socialism. Shadow socialism. So Fabian socialism means shadow socialism. Shadow socialism means half of socialist concept. So even though directive principles having socialistic nature, isn't it? These directive principles have socialistic nature. That is why it has Fabian socialistic nature. So England was the famous country for Fabian socialistic concept. Just they have shadow of the socialistic concepts. So this is also directive principles also have Fabian socialistic nature. Right?
2019-2020 సచివాలయం ఫలితాల్లో గ్రేడ్ 1, గ్రేడ్ 2లో స్టేట్ ఫస్ట్తో పాటు గ్రూప్ 1, గ్రూప్ 2 రైల్వే, ఎస్ఎస్సి మరియు ఎస్ఐ కానిస్టేబుల్లో వేల మందిని గవర్నమెంట్ ఉద్యోగులుగా తీర్చిదిద్దిన సంస్థ ఇప్పుడు సచివాలయం మరియు గ్రూప్ 2లకు కొత్త బ్యాచ్లు ప్రారంభమవుతాయి. మరిన్ని వివరాలు సంబంధించిన హర్షిత్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ విజయవాడ.
So Fabian socialist nature means shadow socialism. It's called shadow socialism. Yes, absolutely, you understand. In general, you have to think directive principles having the socialistic nature, isn't it? So what is welfare of the society? Society has different kind of people. So we are directive principles are thinking about the welfare of that different kind of people. That means it is going to strive for the equality concept. It is going to do hard work striving for the equality concept. Equality concept means socialistic concepts. So directive principles have the shadow socialistic concepts. The shadow socialist concepts are called Fabian socialism. Right? Even though Ambedkar said that novel rights, the directive principles are like novel rights. According to Ambedkar, these are novel rights. Direct principles are novel rights. Novel rights means not perfect rights, just shadow rights. Just shadow rights, not perfect rights, just shadow rights. According to Ambedkar, the direct principles are shadow rights. Okay, so here the constitution makers, Indian constitution makers, they added fundamental rights in our constitution, added directive principles in our constitution by the effect of three concepts, by the effect of three, what we can say, so that report, because of three reports. So directive principles are added in the constitution because of three reports. Okay, what are the reports? First, Nehru report. Nehru report 1928. 2, Karachi report 1931. Next 3, Sapru report 1945. These three are based for directive principles. Because of these three reports, influence is there on directive principles. So our constitution makers added directive principles in our constitution because of these three reports, especially Sapru, maximum effect was there. Sapru report effect was there, maximum effect was there. So because of these three reports, directive principles are added in our constitution. Right. So now I want to explain about the objectives or features of directive principles. First of all, we have discussed what are the objectives and features of directive principles. The objectives and features of directive principles. Here you see, first one, what is the feature, what is the directive of these directive principles? So, welfare of the main feature, welfare of the society. The main feature of directive principles, welfare of the society. Why? Because it will be striving for the welfare of the society. For example, you see today, housing, shelter and food. Government has been giving so many welfare programs, so many benefits to people today. Government has been giving loans, government has been giving housing, government has been giving, even though rice, food, civil supply, all are a part of welfare. That's why directive principles, main feature or main aim is welfare of the society. And they have socialistic nature. Direct principles have socialistic nature. Socialistic nature means equality concepts. So they have socialistic nature. And next, so positive in nature. Generally fundamental rights, positive, negative in nature. Fundamental rights, negative in nature. So directive principles, positive in nature. Direct principles are positive in nature. Next. So direct principles have no legal support. Directive principles they have no legal support. So whatever happening to direct principles, so we should not go to court, we should not demand in the court. That's why these are having no legal support. Next, direct principles are not compulsory. Direct principles are not compulsory. Direct principles are not compulsory. These are not compulsory, only advisable principles. Only directive principles, not compulsory. So we have no right to demand the government to implement the directive principles. These are the principles having no guarantee, not compulsory. Should not demand in the court, should not go to court for the direct principles, implementation of direct principles. That's why these are not compulsory. Next, so here only advisable principles. These are the advisable principles. No any kind of legal support, no any kind of judiciary support, only advisable principles. So Constitution advises the governments. Constitution will advise the government to implement. Implementation is not compulsory. Okay, so depends on the implementation, depends on financial funds. It depends on financial funds. So if government has financial sources, it may implement these direct principles. If government is not having money, financial resources, financial funds, but it cannot introduce. The governments will not introduce or implement these directive principles. So, welfare of the society, the main aim of directive principles, welfare of the society, and socialistic nature, they have the socialistic nature, and they have positive, they are the positive in nature. Positive in nature means, so only they will strive for the development and welfare of the people. So positive in nature, have no legal support. Directive principles have no legal support. If the governments are not implementing, we have no any right to go to court. So, and not compulsory. The directive principles are not compulsory. So this only depends on the government decision only. Advisable principles, these constitution advises the governments. That's why these are only, already I told you, instrument of instructions. It is called instrument of instruction. Already I told you, instrument of, it is like an instrument of instructions. So like an instrument, like tool, like instrument of instructions, and depends on financial sources, financial funds. The main concept behind of the implement of these directive principles, financial sources. When our government having the funds, sufficient funds, then only government can implement. But nobody has the right to go to court against the fundamental rights. So nobody has to go to court against the fundamental rights because these are not compulsory. These are advisable only. Okay, so these are objectives, futures, aims, whatever. But directive principles striving for establishment of welfare society. Their directive principles aim is very perfect. Directive principles goal is very perfect. What is that? Establishment of equal welfare of the society. Yes, welfare of the society means, so it will give, for example, today corona effect is there. Because of corona, government is giving, central government is giving 500 per month, state governments are giving 1500 like that. This is a part of directive principles. But it is not compulsory. You have no right to go to court. Why the government is not giving amount? So, Andhra government is giving 1500, Telangana government is giving 100,000. You give 1500. So, don't go to court regarding these cases because it is purely a concept of welfare concept principles. So, directive principles also looking like that. So, these are the main aims and objectives of directive principles. You remember, they have no legal support. They are not compulsory. They are positive in nature. Welfare of the society. And advisable principles. Instrument of instructions. Novel rights. And also injusticiable rights. Injusticiable rights. We can say like this also, injusticiable right. Injusticiable rights. So there is no justiciable rights, fundamental rights. Justiciable rights are fundamental rights. But injusticiable rights, directive principles. So these are the aims, objectives, goals, features of directive principles.